In this second lesson, we'd like to cover the matter of challenging and decatastrophizing negative thoughts. And in this particular lesson, I want you to understand 4 main points. Number 1, understand how unhappy emotions immobilize a person. Depression and pessimism actually have negative effects on a person's performance. This is well researched and is scientific. Number 2, understand how emotions are linked to explanatory style. This linkage is absolutely important that students understand this, and that is your depressed emotions or unhappy sense of hopelessness or helplessness comes from the way you think about things and the way you explain the reason for things. If you can change that explanatory style, you can actually uplift the emotion so that it's not hopeless, but it's hopeful. And it doesn't result in inactivity and helplessness. It results in a confidence that by taking certain steps, you can improve your situation. You know, students, they need to be talked to this way, almost like a coach. Susie, I want you to understand that you're getting this grade does not define you. What you need to do now is you need to come up with a set of steps by which you can improve. We ourselves as coaches and teachers inside the classroom have a responsibility to help our students combat their negative explanatory styles. If we don't do this, we will find ourselves extremely frustrated as we see day after day, quarter after quarter, month after month, non-improvement, because we don't know at the heart of it, there's a dialogue going on in their mind that is telling them they can't do it, and that is causing them to resign to any form of effort toward improvement. This particular course gives you the vocabulary so they can audibly hear you combat, dispute, and argue against those negative thoughts that arise within them that are incapacitating them as it relates to their academic progress. The third point is learn different explanatory styles, and the fourth is learn to modify explanatory styles for positive emotions and optimistic thinking. Now, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but I just want to show you, you're going to read through this and you'll look at some videos that will spend more time on this, but I mainly want you to get this thought. An event happens, and in this particular situation, let's call this girl Susie. We'll just keep that same name from our first video. She's just gotten a text from her friend. Let's say her friend is named Jennifer. And Jennifer has said in the text, "I don't like your hairstyle." Now you'll notice behind Susie are also some girls, and it looks like they're kind of leaning in toward one another and kind of whispering. And if you look at this, your first thought may be they're whispering about her and they're saying something negative. So if all of these are true, and that is that she's not a likable person, they're whispering about her, her hairstyle is not that great, she's going to be pretty bummed. But what we're about to do is we're going to make it so that when she looks up from her iPhone and walks away from these girls, she has a totally different mindset and faces the world with optimism. This is how we do it. First, we have to look at the thoughts that have surfaced in her mind. The first thoughts are, I will never be a popular person. This always happens to me. I'm not a likable person. I'm going to make this very profound statement, but research backs me. And that is, the first thoughts that come to your mind after an adverse event are not always true. In fact, sometimes not only are they not true, but they're much bigger in size, and they make you feel the problem is much more of a problem than it really is. And so you have to learn how to dispute your own thoughts. It sounds funny, but yes, you have to learn how to argue with yourself. Some students are not good at this, but they have to learn the skill set of observing thoughts that come through their mind. And then, like a tennis ball, hitting the tennis ball back the other direction by saying, that's not true. Okay, now you'll notice 3 words after each of the statements. After the statement, I will never be a popular person, is the word permanence. Permanence is a characteristic of explanatory style that assigns a permanent situation to the statement. In other words, it makes it so that that statement is such that you can never do anything about it to change it. So when you say, I will never be a popular person, that word never assigns permanence. In like manner, the other 2 statements, this always happens to me, that word always assigns pervasiveness to it. In other words, pervasiveness refers to the scope and the size of the problem. So when you say this always happens to me, you're saying 365 days a year, 24 hours every day, it's always happening to me. You know, that will result in a very depressive mood for you. But you know what? It's not true. And so you have to dispute it. And that I'm not a likable person really is personalizing the situation and placing the entire blame of the situation on you. And so here's the good news. Just as you can have an explanatory style that assigns permanence, pervasiveness, and personalization to sentences that apply and that surface in your mind, you can use these 3 same styles to actually dispute your thoughts by doing just the opposite of these 3 P's. And that is making your statements non-permanent, making them non-pervasive, and making them non-personal, and that is taking the blame off. So let's do that very quickly. We'll take each of these 3 statements and we'll modify them. This is the process of arguing. So for a second here, let's say I'm Susie. I want you to get into my mind for a sec and go ahead and just sit up in the bleachers and watch me argue with myself. So Susie's first thought is, I will never be a popular person. But she's been trained to remove permanence, and so she combats that in her thought. And she says, no, wait, that's not true. I think the real situation is today is just not my day, and everyone deserves a few bad days. Okay, what did she just do there? Think of you're in the bleachers and you're watching a tennis match. And her first thought is on one side of the net, and her second thought is on the other side of the net. Well, her first thought, it basically serves the ball and it hits over the fence or hits over the net. I'm never a popular person. Well, then Susie, who has been skilled in metacognition, that is observing her thoughts, basically says, no, that's wrong, and hits the tennis ball back the other way, removes the word never from the statement, and localizes it down to a time frame that's manageable by saying today. That right there, that hitting the tennis ball back, is basically something that can occur inside the same student and turn their entire perspective of a mindset from being the person in the 100-meter race who doesn't want to get up and feels like they can't do anything to being the basketball player in the basketball court who realizes, wait, I can get back up and I can finish this thing and win. In the same way as you can remove permanence, you can remove pervasiveness. So the second statement she made was, this always happens to me. Well, you remove pervasiveness by just removing the word always, and you make a new sentence. This happened to me because I sent an unhappy text yesterday. Of course, that little A there should be I. I sent an unhappy text. By doing that, you shrink, you decatastrophize the situation. And then the last thing is, I'm not a likable person. Well, you're putting the blame on yourself. So let's go ahead and take away personalization, and let's put those girls who were there in the background whispering, those girls are being mean today. Or you know what you could do? You could even put another statement here and say, those girls weren't even whispering about me. They were actually looking across the baseball field at someone else. However you do it, basically you're changing everything in the first column to new statements in the third column. And what happens when you do this? If you look at the first column and you read them, I will never be a popular person. This always happens to me. I'm not a likable person. The end result is that you can't do anything to change the situation and you feel helpless. But if you change it to the the third column, which has the second consideration, that is, today is not my day. Everyone deserves a few bad days. This happened to me because I sent an unhappy text yesterday, and those girls are being mean today. You can create an action plan now. That is a plan of attack that actually can mobilize by doing something. So for the first statement, well, if today's not your day, just wait 24 hours, and it'll be a new day. Second statement, this happened to me because I sent an unhappy text. Again, a little typo there, remove that A to I. Well, I won't send an unhappy text next time. And then the last thing, those girls are mean to me today. Well, basically, you just say to yourself, you know what? That's out of my control, so I'm going to forget about it. I can't do anything about that. The end result is a person who feels positive, who has an action plan, and has the sense that they can change the future. That is very powerful. Once a person has that mindset, then basically they can take specific actions to improve their situation because they no longer feel something's permanent. They no longer feel it will always happen. And also, they don't take the entire blame for themselves.